You are listening to a free version of the Majority Report with Sam Seder. To support this show and get another 15 minutes of daily program, go to majority.fm, please.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Wednesday, May 26, 2021. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Elizabeth Hinton, Associate Professor of History and African American Studies at Yale University, Professor of Law at Yale Law School, author of America on Fire, The Untold History of Police Violence and Black Rebellion since the 1960s. Also on the program, speaking of law, grand jury convened in the Trump criminal probe. What do you get the ex-president who has everything? His own grand jury, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, Health and Human Services head Becerra calls for a follow-up investigation on the origins of COVID-19. Joe Biden reportedly willing to nearly have his infrastructure ask as the bipartisan kabuki continues. And surprise, vaccine makers lobby other countries to oppose a patent waiver which would make it easier for poorer countries to vaccinate their folks. Pentagon is accelerating its Afghan exit. The Wisconsin Republican Party kills the state's Medicaid expansion without any accountability in their extremely gerrymandered state. And the heartwarming story of the U.S. Senate giving Jeff Bezos' space ambitions a bailout. Ireland quashes Biden's global minimum tax proposal. Trump's EPA apparently hid threats of a toxic herbicide. And Tony Blinken announces $110 million in aid to Gaza, where 400,000 people have limited access to fresh drinking water. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. Joining me, as always, Emma Vigeland. Hello, Emma.
Hello, Sam. How are you?
Wow. Okay. Look, if you don't want to ask, I'm not making you ask. That's like the tone that, honestly, my kids use, like when I've just said, like, brush your teeth. Fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of the dynamic we've got today.
I'm not asking. You don't have to ask me. I wear it on my sleeve.
Yeah.
So
move on.
Right. I guess we'll just move right on from there.
Yes, let's do that.
We were just talking before the show started as to who are some of the most stupid senators in the U.S. Senate, and there's heavy competition with no doubt. I mean, I think Tommy Tuberville, is that how we pronounce his name?
Yes.
I mean, I think there's no doubt that Tommy Tuberville is at least the least informed as to how the government functions of any senator. And I mean by government functions, I'm talking like Schoolhouse Rock level knowledge.
Doesn't understand what the three branches of government are.
What's a bill? What are the three branches of government? Whatever could fit into a 60-second song geared towards children to teach them about civics is above the pay grade, apparently, except for not the pay grade, of Tommy Tuberville. That is, and then there's a couple others, but Marco Rubio is got to be sort of somewhere there at the top of it. He's just, he's little Marco. And here he is on, and here's little Marco. And understand what's going on here, right? I mean, just recall that Marco Rubio 6-8 years ago was considered the new Republican Party. He was one of the
wonderkind to save the Republicans the next guy up.
One of the young guns who was coming up and going to show the party. Remember, he was a big proponent of immigration reform until he had to bail when he realized, like, oh my gosh, I guess I thought I had joined a different Republican Party. And he bailed. He just dropped the thing like a hot potato. The whole thing fell apart. And he was also trying to maintain that brand when Donald Trump showed up on the scene. He was one of the biggest critics of Donald Trump. Bigger critic than even Ted Cruz until Donald Trump made fun of Ted Cruz's wife. And then Ted Cruz for 15 minutes was a critic of Donald Trump's.
And don't forget about the water incident.
That's right. Yeah, okay. Well, so he's got a little dry mouth. And Donald Trump mocked him. And, I guess, I don't know. I think they compared their organ size in a debate. But be that as it may, Marco Rubio knows he's now facing, more than likely, Val Demings. Could actually be a race for the Senate in Florida. Rubio is not the strongest candidate. And so he's going to have to go all in on the Trump agenda. And what does that mean? And by Trump agenda, I mean the Republican Party agenda. Let's be honest. And what does that mean? On the day after the anniversary of the killing of George Floyd, show up on Fox and Friends and show how you are just going to have none of this.
That's what they call social justice. That's the brand and that's the name they've created for it. But what it really is it's neo-Marxism. What it really is cultural Marxism. It is another way to tear apart capitalism, the American way of life.
So are you okay with that school in your state doing that?
No, I don't think we should be teaching that. I think here's what I think we should be teaching people at universities. I think we should be teaching them engineering. I think we should be teaching them biology. I think we should be teaching them science, engineering, math, other technological fields. I think we should be teaching people the skills they need to find a good-paying job and contribute to their community, their families, and their country in the 21st century. That's why we have universities. That's why we have college degrees. Not to train a generation of cultural Marxist activists, but to train people so they can go out and find jobs that are good for them, good for their families, and good for the country. That's why we do this, and why we should be subsidizing, why the American taxpayer, why Florida's taxpayers should be subsidizing teaching our young students how to hate America, how to hate everything about our history, how to divide and hate one another, how our identity is not American but the color of our skin, why we should be spending taxpayer money to teach these things that are destructive, not to mention untrue, is beyond me. I don't understand why that's happening, and I hope it's corrected.
Well, I mean, Matt hit the nail on the head, right? He doesn't understand why it's happening because he believes that the only purpose of education is essentially to indoctrinate college students in general, to serve capital and to serve capitalism and the status quo and the system in and of itself. Sam, are you back?
I am back. Yes.
So, I mean, you watched that clip before the show anyway, but I was just building on Matt's great point, which is essentially that the only service of education in Marco Rubio's mind is to give people the explicit tools to serve capitalism in ways that don't actually question power centers in any fashion. And that's the undercurrent beneath the just goofy whatever he's talking about, cultural Marxism nonsense terms that he made up.
Well, and I was just struck. I've never, the idea you don't teach literature, you don't teach English, you don't teach history, according to him. No, everything, the university to him and our schools are just, like you say, vocational schools to gear people out to be worker bees. And that's it, according to him. And then in the middle of this, he does a beautiful example of form and function coming together to show the danger of what he's proposing. You have senators who go on television and start up words and concepts that nobody knows what they mean. Like, I've never even heard of like what social Marxism. I don't know what that means. He just sort of just was winging it, and I think that's part of the problem when you don't have any social sciences that you're teaching students. You start, okay, guys.
But I'd be curious as to how many science and engineering courses that Marco Rubio took when he went to college, because one could say if he didn't take enough, he might be sympathetic to cultural Marxism. I'm just saying. He
got a degree in political science. And he's putting that to work. He goes and he gets a job as a senator. There you go.
There. Well, I guess he did follow that stricter pipeline there.
Here's a prediction. We're going to see a lot more Marco Rubio on Fox talking like this, because it is the formula of the Republican Party to motivate people, and you're going to see him get more and more closer to the line of really making this about, the social justice warriors. And because he's, one of the things that's going to make it hard for him to run against Val Demings, and I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of hers, although I think she's going to have a good opportunity to pick up the seat in Florida, is that she's a former cop, former chief of police. Makes it a little bit hard for him to cast her as being anti-police, which would have been the thing that he would have probably run on. But now it's got to be just sort of the Democratic Party is captured by the social cultural Marxists, and apparently we don't even need a description of what that is.
Well, they found a way to call, Bernie Sanders a self-hating Jew or an anti-Semite as a Jewish man. So they may be able to just, find she's a self-hating cop, Val Demings. That's going to be his go-to.
One can only hope. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Elizabeth Hinton, Associate Professor of History and African American Studies at Yale, also a Professor of Law at Yale Law School, author of America on Fire: The Untold History of Police Violence and Black Rebellion Since the 1960s. We'll be right back after this. Folks, just a reminder, I wanted to check in, too, to see what the story was with, just to warn these guys, my internet connection seems still hinky. But all that said, folks, you can support this program by becoming a member. You become a member by going to jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you not only get the free show, free of commercials, you also get, you support the free show and make it possible for us to bring on great guests every day. And you also get then a fun half every day. So check it out, jointhemajorityreport.com. Also, don't forget, join the Discord. A lot of great resources, a lot of great conversations there, a lot of great people, your fellow listeners of the Majority Report. Check it out, majoritydiscord.com. All right. Want to welcome to the program Associate Professor of History and African American Studies at Yale University, a professor of law at Yale Law School, and the author of America on Fire: The Untold History of Police Violence and Black Rebellion Since the 1960s. Elizabeth Hinton, welcome to the show. I'm here with Emma Vigeland.
Thanks so much for having me, Sam.
So, all right. So let's just, this is low-hanging fruit. If yours is the untold history of police violence and Black rebellion since the 1960s, what's the told history?
So the told history is that between 1964, say, and 1968, Black Americans erupted in criminal, spontaneous, carnivalesque rebellion in response to police actions in major urban centers like Harlem in 64, Watson 65, Detroit and Newark during what's known as the long hot summer of 1967, and the 100-some cities that erupted